So now we've been able to keep the hero on the screen and allow the hero to move around within this black box. But we also want to let the hero launch a laser here. So we're going to have to define a couple of things to make that happen. The first thing we probably want to do is give the laser a place on the screen to show up. And we also probably want to create a style sheet or style selector for our laser. We'll make this similar to the hero. We'll make the background a green here. Background 00 FF00. That's gives me 0 for red, 2 Fs, which is 255 for green, and then 0 for blue. We'll give it a width of 2 pixels, a height of 50 pixels, and a position that's absolute as well. So this allows us to show what the laser should look like, and if I refresh, you can see the laser right there in the top left. It's just showing up there, but we haven't animated it. We haven't really set its position yet. We're going to need to do all of those things, but we want to create the laser as a sprite on our screen too, and this is probably a pretty good place to start creating our sprites as a function instead of just trying to fill in all of their properties. So I'm going to create a function here. We'll call this create sprite, and we'll pass in an element, an x, a y, a width, and a height. And we'll go ahead and create a new object here and populate those values. And this might seem a little tedious, but it's actually going to save us some coding in the long run, because now we can use this over and over again to create the new sprites that we need. So now instead of calling hero here, we can actually just move all of this code down to the bottom of our file, and we will create our hero as a new sprite. So create sprite, we'll call it hero, and we'll use those same values here. So let me go ahead and create sprite, hero, 250, 460, 20, and 20. Let's go ahead and create our laser too. So var laser is equal to create sprite, we'll call that laser. We'll set its x value to be 0, and we'll set it off the screen right now. Let's pick a big number like negative 120. And then we know its width is 2 and its height is 50. So now we're creating the sprite, and if we go into our show sprites function that we defined earlier, we can set the position of our sprite. So now if I refresh the screen, looks like I've got some kind of issue. I've got some x property that's not defined. Let's go ahead and see where that is on game 67. Doesn't like this. It doesn't like sprite.x. We must have a bad call on our function we just defined. We didn't return a value here. That's the problem. Return result. There we go. Now we should be in better shape. So now you can see my laser's not on the screen because we set its position to be way far off. We haven't actually handled any way to launch it yet. So let's figure out what the space key is. We'll have it launch based on the space key. So console.log key code will tell us what key that is, and we'll refresh our page and look at the console. And if we hit the space key, we should see it's 32. So 32 is our space key here. We're going to go ahead and create a value for that as well. So now space key is 32, and we can actually handle that and add that to our controller. If key code is equal to space key, controller.space is equal to is pressed. That's all we have to do to react to this new key. So now that the controller can handle the space key, we want to actually set the position of our laser. So we're going to come down here where we're actually handling our controls. We're going to say if controller.space. Now we can set the position of our laser properly. So laser.x is going to be equal to hero.x. And if we just set hero.x, then the laser would show up on the left side of our hero, which is probably not what we want. But the hero is about 20 pixels wide, so the laser should show up probably in about the middle of that. The laser is 2 pixels wide, so if we add 9 to this, it should look right, like it's right in the center. And then laser.y should be hero.y minus laser.h. What that's going to do now is set the laser right at the center of our hero at the top. And you can see if I hold down my space key and move around, the laser follows me around, which is probably not what I want. So I want to actually define a new function in my game loop, and I want to have that called update positions. So we'll call update positions here. And what update positions is going to do, we need to write that. We're going to use update positions to update anything that we don't have direct control over in our game. So we don't have direct control over the laser, we only are able to launch it. So here all we're going to do is laser.y minus equal to 12, and that should cause our laser to just shoot forward. And if we have some kind of JavaScript error, let's go ahead and check that out on 124. We have a colon instead of a semicolon. So now when we launch our laser, you can see we can still hold down the space bar, which is probably not optimal, but we are able to launch it exactly like we would want. But we can kind of, if you notice, we can bring it right back by hitting that space bar again. So we actually would probably want to limit the rate of the laser fire anyway, because that's going to make the game a little more interesting. If you could just fire all the time, you'd be able to knock out all the enemies pretty easily. So we're going to change this up a little bit so that we can only launch the hero or the laser if the laser's position is below a certain number. So we'll say if laser.y is less than or equal to negative 120. So this is going to allow the laser some time to move off of the screen so that we have kind of a reload rate. And if I refresh now, I can hold down the space key, but I'm only going to launch after that laser's good and gone. So that's going to be important when we actually get enemies on the screen, because we're going to want to use that same kind of notation so that we can reduce that fire rate. So this gets us firing lasers, and this gets us moving around the screen, and allows our laser to interact the way we would expect. So in the next lesson, we'll start to add enemies to our screen. Thanks for watching, and the next lesson should be up soon.